When it comes to NBA fans, the NBA media, almost every single year, we're prisoners of the moments and overhype what's happening in the current year. And after Denver won this year's championship, dominating the finals, Jokic playing fantastic, the hot takes since this series have been flying every single day. And when you look at the landscape of the media, there's really two extremes. On one end, it's overhype, overpraise, saying Denver's next dynasty, being compared to the Kansas City Chiefs, and some saying Jokic is the best center of all time. Now on the other end, it's just as insane. And for these takes primarily, is not the NBA media downplaying Jokic. As one of the worst takes I've ever seen about this team and Jokic came from an actual current NBA player, that player being Karl-Anthony Towns. And what he argued, he said Minnesota this year, on quote-unquote short notice, had a more impressive run than Denver win the championship after 4 years together. Don't believe it? Listen for yourself.
I don't care how you say it. Like, it was a reason the Denver Nuggets won a championship.
I just played them in the playoffs, bro. They was telling us our plays. They were like, all right, yo, they weren't even talking. Ball right to an area and the person was just randomly right there. I'm like, how is this possible? But they also what's one of the things that, like, you see, it was more special what we did in Minnesota because we had like a month and then we had training camp and it was like, you better figure it all out right now. Yeah. And we really figured it out quick. Yeah. Think about it. They had what? Jokic been in the league
4 years.
If you think about it, 4 years, we got it done in 4 months.
Right.
In terms of bad takes in the media, players, fans, that right there is one of the worst of all time. Because this take, it's not even really a take, it's just someone being flat out wrong. And I don't hate Karl-Anthony Towns, he's a little zesty, but someone in his life and his inner circle has to stop this guy from the delusional takes about him and his Minnesota team. And looking at Pat Bev, the host of this podcast, he said point blank, quote, "There's a reason they won the championship this year," heavily implying experience and being together was the sole reason Denver won the championship. And while experience is definitely very important for a championship team, saying that's why Denver won the championship as a primarily sole reason, I heavily push back on. As looking at the field, the Boston Celtics have the core of Tatum, Brown, Horford, as well as Smart, that's been together since 2018. LeBron and AD, one of the best duos in the league, has been together since 2020. Jimmy, Bam, and Spo, also together since 2020. Comparing those teams to Denver, I would heavily argue the Nuggets were less experienced than all three of those teams. As you gotta understand, Jamal Murray, he missed nearly 2 years with injuries. And before this year, the last time he played with the Joker and MPJ was in mid-April of 2021. And not for 1 second played with Bruce Brown, Jeff Green, or Christian Brown. And when it comes to Aaron Gordon, him and Jamal played under 5 games before this season. Simply put, yes, the roster has been together for roughly 2 years, and the core of Jamal and Jokic longer than that. But this team, as constituted, 2023 really was the first time these guys all played together for a single season. And I find it pretty funny Cat openly brags about Denver knowing his team's plays. Look, when it comes to playoffs, the opposing team should know your plays if they have a good scouting report and a good coach. And that's why guys like Stephen Curry, Rajon Rondo, especially LeBron, always talk about it at length when it comes down to a series when it's Game 6, Game 7, the pivotal moments. Everyone on both sides knows the team's plays, their sets, as well as their tendencies. And for a team like Denver, a high IQ team with a great coach, it's not really surprising. And for Minnesota and Cat, it's kind of revealing their team, their coaching staff, and Cat himself were surprised by a team knowing their plays and their tendencies. And staying on Cat, he said with a straight face, Minnesota's season this year was quote-unquote more special than what Denver did. If Cat was under the influence in this interview, someone let me know, because that is the only way I'm going to give him a pass for these statements. Because once again, he's just talking on his rear end. Back in 2022, with Pat Bev, Cat, and Edwards, and that whole squad, they were the 7th seed in the West and won 46 games. For Timberwolves fans, that's highly impressive. But for NBA standards, being the 7th seed, losing the first round of the Grizzlies, blowing numerous fourth quarter leads, that's not impressive by any measure. And if he's talking about 2023 with the Gobert Timberwolves, it's even worse, as that team only won 42 games and was the 8th seed in the West. If you're going to say one of those Timberwolves teams was quote-unquote more special than Denver, you have to have at least one playoff series win or just one finals appearance to make that argument. You'd still be wrong, but it wouldn't be as embarrassing. And speaking of embarrassing, both Cat and the Joker this year squared off in the playoffs. And as you guys remember, Denver spanked them in 5 games with ease. And Cat as an individual versus Jokic, it makes this take even more hilarious, as he didn't even put up 20 points a game versus the Joker, compared to Nikola, who averaged 26 points, a near triple-double, and was dominant in virtually every game. So when Cat in his ever-so-zesty voice says, "We got it done in 4 months," I can't help but ask, what exactly did you get done in 4 months? Take it a step further. In Cat's entire career in the playoffs, what has he ever accomplished? And in contrasting him versus Jokic in the 2016 draft, Cat was the first pick to the 16-win T-Wolves, and Jokic 41st to the 30-win Nuggets. Both these guys have spent 8 years with the exact same team that drafted him, but Cat 8 years later hasn't made it out of the first round once and has a grand total of 4 playoff wins to his name, compared to Jokic, who just this year had 16 alone. As the old saying goes, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And Cat right now has all the tools to be a top 10, top 15 player. But I don't know what it is. That it factor, that killer mentality, that dog, he doesn't have that in him. The one thing I will give Cat, he's pretty bold with his takes. No matter how delusional they are, you gotta admire he's not afraid to push the envelope and say how he feels. As looking past this Jokic take, on the exact same podcast with Pat Bev, Cat said with a straight face, when he hangs it up, people in the NBA are gonna say he changed the game forever. I'm all for confidence in one's ability and belief, but this dude, he's borderline delusional. And what I hate about this statement, it ignores guys like Dirk, Kevin Durant, Larry Bird, who are near 7-footers who pulled from deep on the regular. And what those guys did in their era, in large part, laid the groundwork for Cat today. That is my main problem with this era and someone like Cat. These guys have tunnel vision and think the NBA started when they got drafted. And statements like these make you look foolish as well as disrespectful. As what those guys accomplished, that's why you can make 60 mil while not being half the player they were in their primes. So that right there is the end of the video. As you guys saw, Cat was off his rocker, he's on something, because those takes were some of the worst takes just from one podcast. As always, thank you guys for watching, hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.